Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so this message is coming in from a divine masculine, and I feel like for most of you, you don't know this guy yet because it does seem to me that there is a soul contract between you and this divine masculine. He's going to come into your life once you have completed a cycle here with another masculine energy, that you have in some way been in a relationship or a marriage. They're waiting for that situation to close down fully. And waiting is kind of the wrong word because it just feels like energetically this door can't open to this divine masculine and this new cycle and this new relationship until this old cycle is fully kind of closed down on. And I do want to say this old cycle that you're maybe still in, or you've been in and maybe you're closing down like the final bits of it. It doesn't have to be with just one masculine. It could be with like maybe several of the boyfriends that you've been with. But this other masculine energy, it's funny because they're not giving me words like soulmate masculine or karmic masculine, whoever this is that you're either with now, or it's like, somebody here from your past, but they are showing me the 5 of Pentacles. So I feel like this is just some kind of cycle of like you not getting what you deserve, the men that you've been involved with, like really kind of coming up short. But in this 5 of Pentacles energy, it could be that they left you out in the cold. It could be, I'm hearing like they left details out. They left certain things out in order to make you feel lacking, or in order to make you feel like kind of left out in the cold. It could have to do with some kind of traditional energy as well. Like, oh, well, you're not good enough to be my traditional girlfriend, or for me to get married to, or for me to bring home to my parents, or some kind of traditional energy. But I'm specifically hearing like they left certain things out. They left the details out because sometimes in the 5 of Pentacles, the snow really stands out to me, the snow that covers the ground. So I feel like maybe, and that gives kind of a secretive energy. So I'm getting like maybe this wasn't grounded, or like you couldn't see what this was grounded on. And I think on their side of it, it was grounded in some kind of lack, where I think this man that you were involved with, or potentially like men, they feel kind of lacking. And like maybe even in a traditional sense, maybe they feel like if you knew certain things about them that you would leave them out in the cold, but they can't do you the courtesy of, there's a lot of Libran energy coming through here, where they can't do you the courtesy of having a one-to-one conversation, or like being fair to you in a relationship and in conversation. That's coming through like really, really strong. So it's leading to some kind of tower moment in this cycle. I mean, it kind of can't not, because the truth is going to come out here about whatever it is that they've hidden. But I feel like for you, you could have been in a state of denial. Like you could have been denying that something exists here, like denying that something's a problem, denying that there is a third party here in this situation, or even like making excuses for this guy, denying that he's in lack in some way, and that he is leaving details out, or he's not including you in the loop, or that he has left you out in the cold. It feels like that's what's kind of leading to this tower moment for you. But this tower moment, even though it is very destructive, or if you've already been through the tower moment, it's like it was very destructive. It's going to lead to new growth for you. It's leading you to like your justice energy here, because it's leading to some kind of tower moment realization. So it feels like there's a tower moment that's a part of this cycle. And maybe you've gone through multiple tower moments. If this is like multiple different boyfriends or guys that you were seeing or dating or something, it's because there's something here about these men in particular, this kind of a man, that you have to learn how to see. But it feels like see something like beneath the snow, see that something is being left out, see that is an unfairness, see that there's some kind of strategic energy here with the tower that I'm getting, because the tower energy is Mars energy for me. Mars is a very strategic, very selfish kind of a planet. And I think maybe you were denying to yourself that this guy is selfish and that he has been strategic. He's been strategically leaving things out that he feels would reveal his kind of lack, and because he didn't want you to make a decision about him, or to be able to see straight, to be able to see something, to be able to be treated fairly, or to make a decision. All of this is like, it feels really, really unfair on you, whatever this was. So I do feel there was some kind of 3D tower moment where you were really shocked. You didn't think that he would do such a thing. And I think if he was in his right energy, because this is a guy that's acting from a place of, it is kind of a trauma space, but it's like he's acting from a place of like low self-esteem. So instead of addressing that at the root and kind of trying to bolster himself up where he feels kind of like flimsy or like where he comes up short. Instead of doing that and kind of dragging himself out into the light of day, I just heard sunlight is the best disinfectant. Instead of doing that, he just has become very strategic. And so you be very shocked at what he did to you because you know his heart. It's kind of like, I know that you don't want to be a person that does this, or that you can see his potential, or it's something here like that, but he can't live up to his potential and he can't be his real, full, authentic self if he's going to remain in this like lack energy. And if he's not going to address issues at the root and instead just kind of be focused on you and how to try to, he's going about it like in the wrong way. So I feel like this Tower moment, it's going to cut. It might draw blood is what I'm getting, like in a, hopefully like a metaphorical sense. There could be a fight, whatever this was, it might feel violent to you, and just incredibly selfish. It might like make you very angry, but I do think it's going to come, like something here is going to come crashing down, like his secret, the fact that he is lacking in some way, or that he's not traditional, because that Five of Pentacles energy, they get flung out of the church, so maybe he's pretending to be pious, or he's pretending to be community oriented, or like of God in some way, or like maybe leading you on as well. Like, oh, I want to get married someday, or I want some kind of traditional relationship, but this guy doesn't, I feel like there could be money issues here with this guy as well. There's some kind of lack, and whatever it is, he's really identified with it. I mean, for some of you, it could be like his piche, like how big or satisfying that is or something. There is something, just it goes straight to the heart of like his manhood, and he doesn't ultimately believe that you can love him for who he is. And I actually think that you are the person who could do that if he was a real person to you and did you the courtesy, like did you some kind of courtesy here of like some kind of respect. So either way, it's leading up to some kind of tower, and I feel like this relationship is kind of coming crashing down with that, and it might have even rocked like your identity here, your self-identity. And for some of you, it was meant to, because that's like one of his tactics, because you are all the things and you are just beautiful, and he was intimidated by that. You're gorgeous. He wanted you to feel second best by involving other people or a certain other person that is maybe a competitor of yours, or he did that on purpose, and it's to ricochet his own hurt, towards you. But it led to some kind of realization of, wait a second, this isn't my person. This is an unequitable situation. And that's where you kind of need to get to in order to, and you might have to overcome some kind of fear of losing others, because maybe this is tied in with like, given that like church thing, it's tied in with some kind of community, or you feel like you might have to get a divorce or something, make some kind of non-traditional move, or like maybe you got pregnant and it's like, okay, well, we are going to get married because there's a lot of pressure on you guys to do that, but you're like, actually, no, we're not. And you're scared of losing others, and you could be scared of like losing respect or being seen as non-traditional or being seen as immoral or something in some kind of way, because he put you in this like very vulnerable position. And this was like very, very strategic. It's kind of what I'm getting, but you're having to confront all of that. I also feel like this guy makes you feel alone, like, and oh, that's interesting. Self-isolated. So, but like, that's maybe feeling alone in a crowded room, or like not knowing who to trust. This is very much reminding me of like the player abuser in Why Does He Do That? Where one of the effects of being with a player is that you feel isolated over time, because you don't want the embarrassment of, you bring your boyfriend or your husband or something to a gathering, and he's making eyes at your friends that you just introduced to, or sleeping with some of your friends or your siblings, or your, so you feel like you can't introduce this guy to your friends and family, because then he's going to have an affair on you. So then you have like the lonely life. You feel kind of isolated, and you start to feel insecure, and it rattles your own foundation. So this divine masculine, because this feels like a soul contract. And I feel like the reason you guys entered into this soul contract is because you are soulmates, definitely here with this divine masculine. He does feel like a little further along in terms of like, it's something to do with like his masculinity and relationships. This is where it's like, I feel like that was the agreement. Okay, well, when you're done with all of this, and when you've learned these kind of lessons, and you're ready to learn something different, you're ready to learn a new treatment from a man, like a new thing, that's when, like, close down on this, actually make the decision, choose yourself, block yourself out at the heart here. It feels like, I just heard, like, in due time, there's no rush from this divine masculine. He is very like just allowing you, but he is like he doesn't like your mistreatment here. And the fact that you are valuable, and that somebody would try to make you feel like you're not valuable just so that they don't have to like confront themselves. He thinks it's like deeply unmanly. There's not a lot of respect here. There's compassion, but there's also this sense of like nobody should be tolerating that from this masculine energy. And I feel like Spirit's involved with this, because this masculine from your past, or potentially multiple masculines, they have to confront this lack energy, and they have to like turn to God. Well, God's such a loaded term, like turn to Spirit, turn to some kind of like higher guidance. And I feel like they will connect with that, like in the world in some way. It could be like a religious leader or something, but they need to connect to some kind of higher guidance and some kind of higher love, because I think ultimately they feel so lacking because there's something about the material. They're so materialistic. And then their own worth, they tie up into some kind of materialistic energy that's either to do with their own body or their own social standing or their status or their money situation. They don't have this like self-love that is like, I'm going to have highs and lows in my life and I'm going to allow somebody to love me. Like, I feel like you could have definitely done that. And I think they might have projected out that you're a mean girl or that you only wanted them for some kind of like materialistic energy. And that might have, there's just this feeling that your self-identity has really been knocked here in an unfair way. And that's when this divine masculine is coming in. But it's so another thing is like, when you overcome this cycle of competition, and I feel like for some of you, that's part of the tower moment as well, is like realizing that you have been stuck in a cycle of like some kind of dramatic, erratic relationship and some kind of cycle of competition. It's like kind of actually hooked you. And that might be hard for some of you to see, because I feel like for a lot of you, this was like levied at you, where you're not a person who wants to compete with another woman over a man. I feel like if somebody had an established relationship in front of you, even if you were attracted to the guy or whatever, you're not going to interlope in that, because you have self-respect and you value marriage and you like investing in your community, and you are a spiritual person, so you have morals and principles that you're living up to. You know that that's not your guy, and you would rather be friends with both of them and like build up your community. That's who you are, And you certainly would never introduce a third party to throw at this masculine in such a selfish, inconsiderate, strategic manner. You would never do that. But I feel it's been levied at you. I feel like this is what this masculine has done to you. He's done something incredibly selfish. I feel like there's a lot of denial here around this. But I think because you were so hurt and there's so much to process, it kicked up a lot of stuff, right? And you definitely probably were just like angry and like incensed at how this masculine could just like ruin what you have, even if it's like this emotion, the promise of what you had, like the emotional connection that you had or the chemistry, like you could sense for some of you that this is like a soulmate energy here. But others of you, you've built a relationship, you've built a home, or you've built trust, or you've built a family here, and that he could just throw that all away for something so selfish. And I think with somebody here, he is attached to somebody very negative, and I think very plastic, which is kind of giving me the sense of like materialistic, kind of like him in that way. But he views this person as having succeeded, but they both kind of mirror in their lack of self-esteem here. And so I feel like you could have been very hurt by that, but it hooked you into this cycle of it's a trauma bond is what it is. It hooked you in with a trauma bond. And what's wild is for some of you, this is a soulmate connection. You don't need a trauma bond. You already have a regular bond, but they've definitely like dinged it or like knocked it and brought it into this like trauma bond space. And so you've been left reeling. Your energy has been left reeling about this trauma. And I don't think you have to process the trauma fully for this divine masculine to come in. But I think that one thing that he is kind of waiting for is for you to be ready for a healthy relationship, which means you have to be, a lot of times when people are used to toxic relationships, what I feel like kind of through no fault of your own. I know that you have your own lessons that you're learning here. I'm not saying that, but I feel like this was like kind of levied at you, but through no fault of your own is what I want to say, that you have this addictive quality to this like dramatic, erratic cycle, this kind of like love of drama, because it's like something is going on. And also I think there is a benefit here because it's not coming from you. And so it gives you this feeling of self-righteousness. Like no shade. I have self-righteousness enough for all of us here. So, but like it's, you felt self-righteous because you do know that you're the kind of person that you're like, I would never do that. And so it does make you feel like better than, and from a certain lens, I think that you are better than, because you wouldn't engage with that, but you still are kind of engaging in the competition. But it's from like, think about Katie Heron, in Mean Girls, like in the Plastics, where she was like the home girl, she's kind of like more the girl next door, where she wears her mom's Cheerio bracelet, and she's innocent to all of this, especially at first. And so she's a part of it, but also like kind of remains separate in that certain way. And that's what I feel like you've had to wake up to. You're part of this karmic cycle, is that you're somewhat separate because you would never be the initiator of some kind of drama like this, but you do want to win. And I just heard from Could've, Would've, Should've from Taylor Swift, that Taylor Swift song. The part where she says, "Give me back my girlhood. It was mine first." And, I feel like there's an innocence here. Like you just want to feel happy or peaceful, because maybe before you had started having sexual relationships, you just got along with everybody and you just wish that it could go back to being that. But I think that you've engaged in this kind of tug of war around this like masculine energy, but just because your worth was somehow bound up in it. And it was meant to be, like, by this masculine. He knew what he was doing, kind of throwing this energy at you, because then you would, he knocked your energy in some kind of way and wanted you to feel like you needed to remedy it in this situation and in his eyes. And you don't. Your worth does not depend on him. You are a valuable person, which is why this happened to you to begin with. And so I think you've got to kind of see through the game here and like let go of it. But I think that you've gone around in a cycle with this masculine, or maybe multiple cycles, or this could be like with different relationships that kind of mimicked this energy. And so there's an addictive quality to it, but there's this, it's like mental chewing gum. It keeps you like preoccupied. And that's an interesting word here, because for some of you might be anxious preoccupied, like in your attachment style. The preoccupied is somebody who is preoccupied with their relationships, because you can be engaged in a relationship and like your relationship, love your relationship and value it, but not be like preoccupied with like, because anxious preoccupied always is like a fear of abandonment. They always think that like they're, somebody's going to leave them. And they don't want that to happen. So I feel like it maybe made you a bit preoccupied with this masculine and like what he's doing. And I feel like it's meant to do that. Like his tactics here were meant to like, but also like the anxious part of that, to keep you like nervous and to keep you on your toes so that like you can't relax. And if you relax, you'll see things much clearer. That's kind of why. So he gives you distractions, and he distracts. This is very much giving the player archetype. And why does he do that? Because that's what he was saying in that book, is that the player archetype of abuser tends to, you tend to focus on the other women that are involved in the situation, because it makes you feel scared. I'm going to lose this connection, and I'm not good enough, and I'm being compared to all these other women, and it keeps you blaming them. And in all that distraction and all that drama, what you're not looking at is his other abusive behaviors. And I feel like that's kind of like what's been going on here. So I think for this door to open with this new divine masculine, you have to be prepared to have a healthy relationship, which I think for a lot of you means like finding things that you're interested in, finding other ways to preoccupy your, like when you're bored, not running back to like a toxic relationship cycle, and really kind of, I'm hearing like get back on the wagon of like, maybe join a support group, or, to treat it like an addiction, like join a support group where you're like steadily like moving away from that and you're determined not to go back. And I'm just hearing myself say in previous readings, that a lot of people can't handle being in a healthy relationship, because when things are healthy and things aren't popping off, then they feel like something's wrong, or they feel like there's no spark, or they feel bored. So, but this masculine is prepared to show you a different way. So like I said, I think for most of you have not met this, this divine masculine. For others of you, it could be that you have met him and he's like around and he's kind of watching from the periphery of your life. I don't feel like you have a one-on-one relationship with him, or maybe you haven't even had a conversation with him, and he's just like observing this in a very contemplative way. Especially this is like maybe gone around and around, and he's like, why are you involved with that person? Why do you keep getting involved with that person? That guy clearly doesn't deserve you. You're like way out of his league. He can kind of see that. And once you close this, I feel like that's when you guys can kind of get together. And I feel like he's a part of your due process is what I'm getting. He's a part of your like justice movement, but you have to make this decision to have like fair and equitable treatment. And that's when I feel like you're going to meet this masculine. And I'm seeing the 10 of Pentacles and also the King of Pentacles. This guy's coming in. He's the King of Pentacles. And I feel like there's I think he notices the details here. And if he's watching this like argument unfold, I think he's caught some kind of detail. He can read something here. About this guy. He doesn't like this guy. Like from a distance, he doesn't like this guy. He doesn't think he's good enough. He sees the lack in this guy. I feel like just kind of right off the bat, and is maybe surprised that you don't. Yeah, I'm hearing from Emma, because Emma is like a matchmaker. She likes to matchmake in her spare time, but she was wrong about a preacher actually, and Mr. Elton. And because she was trying to hook him up with one of her friends, and Mr. Knightley called it, and he said, he was saying he's not really the same when there are only men present. I think that if he says like, if Elton is the man I think he is, it'll be your labor in vain. So anyways, it comes out and she said, there's a littleness about him that you saw and I didn't. And I feel like that is something to do with this other guy that you were with or whatever. There's a littleness about him that you saw and I didn't. And so this King of Pentacles is going to help you remove the toxin of this addiction. And it could be an addiction to a particular masculine or just for a type of masculine or a type of relationship that is actually very drama filled. Because even though you haven't started that, you've gotten the addiction because it's been levied at you and it gave you a sense of, it is your version of competing. It has been in the past of like, well, I'm not like that, or I'm not like this, or I would never do this. And that is kind of in a way like it has been your version of competing, and it does solidify your own self-identity. And I think you are a really good person, but I think it's like even dropping that, the need to prove yourself, and instead to just be with like a King of Pentacles who is genuinely noble. And something here about like routines. So it's like once he's in communication with you, I feel like it's not going to stop. Like once you guys start having a one-to-one conversation, it could also be that whenever you do meet this masculine, he could kind of not approach you right away. So you guys might, like, even if you don't know him now currently, he could kind of like watch you from the periphery. Maybe he sees you date somebody else or just it doesn't even have to be a romantic problem. Maybe he watches you kind of weather a tower moment or something. But he might not approach right away, but it's because he is serious and he takes himself seriously and he doesn't have this lack complex. And he knows that like once he speaks to you, that the communication is going to be consistent. That's what I just strongly get. And it's just going to keep building and building and building. And being with him, it's going to acclimate you to a new kind of relationship. And it might be weird or slow going at first to kind of get used to. This is like if you ate nothing but like ho-hos and Twinkies and your palate was really like jazzed up on sugar, but then you start eating healthier and you're like, dang, my body feels like really, really good. But every once in a while, you just want to like stuff a ho-ho in your face, like you're getting used to liking a different kind of man and actually getting used to like, I don't know, his presence and like the stability of that and not having to chase after a man. Cause you might mistake that for the spark not being there, the spark like dying out, or it being calm, mistake it being calm for it being boring, or him not having interest in you. This is also a guy, he shows up in the routines of things. He also notices little things about you, and he likes that you're very service oriented. I think he likes the way that you speak. I think he notices that maybe you're careful when you speak, or that there's a nuance to when you speak. You hit certain details that he himself also notices. And so he respects you right off the bat because of that, because there's something here that he really notices like about you. And I think he might notice something here about your routines. And I think he notices that the two of you are in like some kind of strong routine together. And that's like what's valuable to him. I also feel like this guy has a type, and I feel like you're it. And I feel like whatever type of woman, whatever woman that like you were compared against, or like this other person chose over you seemingly, or introduced into your relationship, or maybe there's a certain kind of woman or man even that you are constantly compared against and made to feel like you are less than, and well, you're not that, and I would so much rather be with that, and blah, 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 blah. I feel like there's something about this divine masculine that's coming in where that's actively not his type. And I think it's going to make you feel better about yourself. It's like the validation that you kind of needed. But I think that the way he says it's not catty, it's not bitchy. And I don't even think, for most of you, I don't think it's in direct relation to this particular situation, unless of course this was like one of your friends or somebody in your family that was like cheated on. And I feel like this guy just might I don't think you even prompt it. And I think that's the potency of it, where he just says that person's really not my type, and then proceeds to notice details, the details that you also notice. Because I think whoever you're compared to or made to compete against, you kind of thought that to yourself. You're like, I think you really do strive for excellence, but this is like, you strive for excellence. You don't strive for anything like superficial, or you want to be like excellent as a whole person. And that includes being humble, and that includes not competing with certain people. And so, yeah, I'm also hearing from Emma, there's Mr. Knightley says, in that same conversation about Mr. Elton, he says, you would have chosen better for him than he chose for himself. Harriet has some first-rate qualities that Mrs. Elton is totally without. And he's acknowledging that Emma's heart was in the right place, and that she chose very well for him, that she was very considerate about him, and all of that stuff. And I just feel like this guy kind of picks up on those details, and he notices you're refined is what I'm getting. And he notices the refinement in you, that you have the big things and the little things that matter to him too. And you just sparkle to this guy, really. He just thinks that you're great. He just thinks that you are really, really great. And I feel like he'll say it, and he might say it on a routine way, but also I feel like the way that this guy compliments you, it's the stuff that gets right to your heart. It's the things about you that are the nuance, the little things that really matter to you about like the kind of person that you are, where you'll toe the line with certain things, but you never cross over this line. This guy, without being told, knows that about you. And it might be in your speech. It might be the way that you, care for yourself or your children, or he notices it. Like that you notice the details, he notices it, but he also carries his side of the bargain here. And it's about breaking this like plastic thing. You might also find yourself not gravitating towards the same things that you used to gravitate towards. Like I'm talking about in the material. Like there could be, it feels like shopping patterns, like the kinds of things that this could even be at the grocery store, because that's kind of what I'm saying. Like there's certain kinds of things that you used to eat before, but now you just don't want to. Craving. The word craving is really coming through because you're going to settle with him. You're not going to feel so agitated. Some of you, if you've been trying to like lose weight, or you feel like your diet has really been off, is it because you've been like, compensating with food or something? But as you're around this guy and things get like kind of calm, I think you reach for certain things like less and less over time. There's a real healing kind of trajectory here, and he's just going to show you what it's like when you're not with a man who is like lacking and then hiding certain things. Yeah. And I feel like you guys can have conversations about like about the details and stuff, but it feels like he's in your energy field at the very least, like right now. His spirit is like overlapping with your spirit and kind of monitoring this situation, because it feels like you have, I think for some of you, you've just completed this cycle, and maybe he's just waiting for like the dust to settle. And maybe you're in this, there is a period when you meet this guy where I feel like there's not direct contact, there's not direct one-on-one. And it is because of the way that he is. He kind of notices things about you, but this isn't like stalking. It's not from, a distance. For some of you, he might be in a relationship when he meets you that, or he could just be really wrapped up in his work or something, but he's really going to notice these things. And so his approach is going to be slow, and it's going to be, respectful. And I just heard you beat out the competition in regards of him. He's not going to involve competition, because once he's involved with you on a routine basis, there is no more competition. He's made his choice. This is a guy that makes his choice and just kind of sticks the landing with that. And I feel like that's how you are as well. And that's how you can build together. Is neither of you are just like looking for the next best thing, like looking because you can't settle in your own souls or anything like that. So it feels like he's teaching you, I feel like this is the lovers. This is like your divine masculine. This is like your highest and best soulmate in this lifetime. But I feel like you had to let go of some kind of like previous cycle. I also feel like there's something here where it's like the lay of the land. He's helping you get to know the lay of the land of like healthy relationships. Yeah. After a period of like real grief, when there was like maybe a lot of spilt milk, and that could have been with more than one person because of what this guy did. It could have been like a real drama that involved like multiple other people, but, and you're overcoming that fear of losing others. And I think you're realizing something here about this past cycle. It's less that people process things differently, because I think maybe you were making excuses for this guy and you were like, well, people operate differently and like on their own times, because you're a very compassionate person, but it's just led you to being a doormat and to being taken advantage of in this situation, because there's strategy here. There's selfishness and strategy. And I feel like this guy wouldn't admit that there's something that this guy, or maybe these multiple guys from the past, they would never admit that what they did was violent. What they did was selfish. What they did, actually what they did led to the destruction of your relationship. They thought it was strategic in some way to make you feel lacking and have to stay with them, even though they're like grumpy or whatever. And I feel like all of this is like unfolding for their highest and greatest good too, because I do think that they need to go down some kind of situation, some type of situation here where I think that they get what they want on a material level or something, and they're so grumpy. And I feel like they don't really, I'm not reveling in this at all. It's just, it feels like they don't like their partner. Their partner is like very materialistic and very like annoying to them, just kind of grating. And they take a backseat in their own life because it's all about the partner, is what it feels like. And I think they were originally kind of drawn into that because he's very materialistic. He feels very lacking in that. She's very materialistic. And there's something about her where he felt like she had something on a material level, or that being seen with her puts him up gives him trumps like on a material level. But really, and it might do on a material level, but nowhere else. He's completely and utterly miserable. I don't think he even really likes her. And I think there's animosity. I don't think she cares enough to notice that he hates her. I think she's very wrapped up with her social life, her friends, herself, and her belongings, and possibly her children if she's got them. This is somebody that likes her children to compete, and even like maybe mutton dresses a lamb kind of energy going on here. But yeah, he's just miserable and possibly doesn't understand it because he thought materialism was the answer. And moving things around strategically on the material was the answer. And he's just everything to avoid touching an inner space. But it'll lead him to having to realize his own immorality, because there's something weird here about like traditionality, where maybe he wants to be seen as traditional. He could get flung out of something. But I feel also maybe he's in the same boat that he tried to put you in, where he tried to maneuver you into some kind of situation where if you said no to him, or that you would risk losing others or the respect of others, or you would be seen as non-traditional, or you would be seen as like not following the word of God or something like that. And he's now in that boat, but he's real miserable, real miserable, because I think but the two of you had some kind of soulmate connection here. They're not really giving me because I think they don't want to suck you back into the cycle of like, oh, this is your soulmate. So, because a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, it's your soulmate, so you've got to put up with anything and you got to run back into the cycle. Don't run back into the cycle. There's plenty of karma here. But I think he's in that situation, but there's no saving grace because he's with a very, I just heard like kind of vapid, materialistic, self-absorbed person. But that's also him bumping up against, because remember I said that, denial. Now he's the one in denial. He was denying that certain things about this person exist, and that I think he was denying that he has a problem within himself, and that his own selfishness led him to a person who I think is, I just heard like 10 times more selfish than he is. And I think he was trying to deny that something about that person existed. Because I think he's in a real situation that he has to kind of cope with, and denial is like one of the ways to cope. And you know, my husband and I were just talking about that, I mentioned that in the live stream, where it's like, if you think about the history of women, and then they got attached to these men because society like forced them to, like really young, and they would have all these babies. They couldn't leave. There was like no option to leave. So what incentive does a woman's brain have to see a man clearly? Because if she sees him clearly and she's just miserable day in and day out, where she could create some kind of fantasy around him and around what they're doing and their traditionality. I feel like maybe he's had to do that. It feels like a karmic, something here's like turning back, because you could have been stuck with this guy in previous lifetimes where you were bound by some kind of code of conduct religiously or something. But yeah, it's forcing him to kind of get in touch with spirit, acknowledge his own immorality, his own lack, the fact that he thinks he stinks, and that's why he has built the rest of this up. Like all this, he's built all this crap up around him. And even for all that, he's not just like not happy, he's miserable. This guy's like flat out miserable, or will be, like as he's kind of going down this particular life. And he's really thinking about the Two of Cups, which I feel like is you, and how he spilt that milk between the two of you, and maybe how this person that he got involved with kind of ambushed him and came in like real hot and heavy or something here, and that he was lacking in his morals. And I think he might have to leave this relationship, and the partner, who I don't think is very spiritual or religious, but would use that to turn a community against this person. It's everything that he tried to levy at you. I feel like he's got to wade through that. Wade might be relevant here. Wade Robson. I don't know who that is. I don't know. I'm hearing a song where it's something about like Wade Robson. I almost remember who that is. Wade Robson. I almost remember who that is. But anyways, this divine masculine believes in you. Can't wait to meet you. Has a lot of love for you. It feels like a return. It might feel like a return because I feel like this is a soulmate. You guys do know each other from past lives for sure. Because I kind of feel like you don't know this guy yet in this lifetime, but it could be that maybe you met and it's like a return. I don't know. It just doesn't feel very close, or like you had one-to-one conversations if that's the case. But this guy really likes your like if you have an emo quality, or like some kind of weird hobby, or like something. I'm picturing somebody like very goth in my mind. So it's like they like that. they like your rebel. They're really going to encourage your like rebel streak, or even like if you have some kind of dark sense of humor or something, this person like gets it and they like it and they think that you're cute and they think that you're funny. So yeah, anyways, that's what I have for you. This divine masculine, I feel like, is kind of, his energy is like hovering over the situation, because I feel like there's a contract. I feel like there's an agreement. If you can shut this cycle down, then he's going to come in and be your divine masculine. And you guys, he's going to show you how somebody who has their stuff together internally and possibly externally, actually, I think it's internally and externally. He might have one, he might have one and then work towards the other one, kind of like more, but he's stable and he's a king of pentacles and he is very noble, and he wants to have the good life, but I think that's the requirement, is that you have to be okay with the good life too, where you're not going to get bored and think that there's no spark between the two of you, because things are simple and things are routine and he's treating you kindly and there's no drama in your relationship. So that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.